nominate too. Yeah, you can go ahead and send the ping. Eric hasn't responded yet, so
that's a little weird. Take this over here in a second.
Got my new phone yesterday.
Oh yeah. Apparently, we can hear you just fine. Like you.
Yeah.
You are about to receive messages that may be harmful to your mental state. Your sense of reality will be questioned. Your view on things will be altered. You are now part of the meta. The meta controls everything. The meta determines what will and will not happen. You are watching the Meta Show.
Well,
hey, it worked.
We're here.
We didn't break it. Oh God, it worked.
It worked. Okay.
Yeah,
we're doing it.
Yeah. So Discord's having a shit fit. So we finally got Discord to work, but it's been a mess for about an hour now. I've been trying to mess with it.
Yeah, the Meta Show has its own Discord, and that's where we normally do things. But we're actually over on the main Imperium Discord because that's so big that we have a partnership with.
That's the problem right now. If you look at the overlay chat thing right there, it's broken. It's like all the extra little things you get for it is busted. So yeah,
all the plugins and everything. Gotcha. Wow.
Yeah. So
well, welcome everybody. I see we got Matani's head has a hole in it. Head like a hole. There's sort of a 9 Inch Nails reference there.
Let's a little off, but that's okay.
Okay. Also, yeah, Steel Horse. Several Bs there, 10 months in a row. Ventriloquist, excellent. Yeah, so we're getting off to a little bit of a late start today. Again, I apologize about the technical difficulties. We're actually using Skype today again, compared to last time where we had some sort of weird shit show talky thing. And Mittens is super loud compared to Boat. I'm not sure if I'm complaining.
I can fix that.
Oh boy. Thing on a spring, 34 months in a row. That is a long ass time, as is Ralos 423. Very nice. On the verge, both of you guys, of getting a upgraded subscriber badge. That's pretty sweet. Looney fucker.
Yay! So the good news is that everything's working. The bad news is our guest isn't here.
Well, we'll see if Aerith deigns to grace us with his presence. We have kind of an interesting thing going on there. Let me see.
Yeah. So the guy that runs this whole shindig is like, yo, he'll be here. And I'm like, oh, okay. But no, he's not here. I blame our producer. But yeah, so today's show is going to be a pretty awesome. We're going to talk about some CSM news, hence the point of him supposed to be here. We're also going to talk about some Reddit trauma that's going on.
Now I'm too quiet. Apparently, you just...
Yeah, I'm fixing it. Don't worry. The March patch is going on. They finally made an announcement for when it's coming. And then they also... we're going to talk about some Horde and NC.love, which is interesting. So it's gonna be a weird show.
I don't know. Maybe I'm just doing audio checks at this point. I'm going to run my mouth to see whether the levels are at a level that people are okay with. Yeah, it's been it's been kind of a quiet week. I think that when we have space drama of, I mean, basically Sword Dragon saying a dumb thing is some of the biggest news out there. We're going to have to stall for time here, guys. I admit it. We're going to see if Aerith turns up. He said he was going to be on the show. We're going to be talking about the economic chaos that's been unleashed in Jeddah, and then I have no idea where he is.
Yeah, so some news. For those of you that were watching yesterday, yes, I am still sick. I'm recovering. I got the death flu a couple days ago. I'm trying to recover from it, so it's not good. I slept for like 24 hours, and it's still there. It's horrible. Oh, sorry.
I don't know. The flu season this year has been really awful. This will be like the Penguins discussion from last week, but it sounds like we're good on the way around. Jack Hayden, wow, that is a blast from the past there, Swimlanes.
Hi, Jack Hayden.
So let's sort of get stuck in. Why don't we?
We're gonna skip around a bit. So we were gonna do top story with the CSM news with Aerith, but he's not here. So we're gonna jump into Nullsec Power Hour, and we're gonna go a little out of order.
As RDev says, we're doing the show an hour earlier this week. Yeah, I should apologize sort of to all of our European viewers. We do tend to do the meta show based upon time in Freedom Land, and there's this weird scenario here where we get daylight savings time a couple of weeks before the Europeans do. Yeah,
so the first thing we're going to talk about here is Horde and NC have officially reset each other. For those who don't know, this week our Hordes moved to Geminet recently. It says Horde announced this week that they'll be resetting NC. This is not something that's very surprising. They all tend to reset each other, but they're still blue. It's kind of weird. For example, they're officially reset, but just like the deal they had with Guardians of the Galaxy, they still can't kill oracles or go after mining or do any kind of hunting in NC space. So while they're officially reset, quotations, no, they're still blue, as we saw yesterday.
What do you mean, as we saw yesterday?
Oh, yesterday, Whelp Squad got bored and took Feroxes to try and reinforce a keep star belonging to Waffles. And PL showed up, then NC, then Horde, then MC, and then GOTG was still 5 jumps out. Whelp Squad had like 170 in local, and they showed up, and local hit 550 before I logged off.
Wow.
So
yeah, that is.
So while they are reset,
about as genuine as a marriage in Vegas. Yeah. So it's blue troll shit basically. These guys continually try to convince the rest of the game that they are something other than a meat shield for PL and NC. But it makes sense. I mean, from a certain perspective, PL and NC have been farming in Providence, and now Horde has moved to Geminate. So it's in PL and NC's interest to find an excuse to go back to blue troll status with Horde so they can farm them, basically, but not actually be at risk of anything.
And what's interesting about it is, like you said, they can farm Horde, so they're neutral. They can go shoot Horde. But Horde Goblins made an announcement yesterday that they literally cannot go after oracles or do cloaky camping in NC and NC pet space, which is kind of hilarious because PL and NC are going to farm Horde. But the fact that that Horde is not allowed to do the same is sad, very sad. What a world we live in.
Well, I mean, sadly, it's I can't really say we're shocked by it. It's just one more thing where I wish they would just say, "Hey guys, we're all allies," openly, instead of dressing it up in a song and dance routine about how it's a reset. Right? Just be like, okay, we're all blue trolls. Let's just admit it.
For example, they moved to Geminate and they reset GOTG so the AWOXing can't happen because Horde's full of leaks. And then a couple days ago, they showed up to defend GOTG or help GOTG, and then proceeded to boast about the fact that they did so well. So I don't know. It's kind of a conundrum.
One of the things that Corns points out here is that these guys, they are required to do a whole bunch of mental gymnastics because Horde is, I think, one of the only entities in the game that refuses to do API checks. And so they have no real functioning auth team or security system. So it's just a complete shit show.
Yeah, so Air's here. He's just on the other Discord, so I'm going to get him to come over here real quick. Then we can start with that.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a really big shit show because again, like you said, they're all allies. They're all blue. Any chance they get to shoot goons, they will. So why not just make it a kind of a public thing? It ends up making a whole shitload of mess. That
well,
for
I think from a certain perspective, it's a good thing. The longer that they're, I mean, well, I don't know. I mean, if I was in charge of their organization, I wouldn't want to be in Horde's position ever, because they're basically just there to be the redheaded stepchild.
Well, no, you might want to be, because I mean, Goblins makes a shitload of money off Horde. Like, he pulls in hundreds of billions a month for his own personal wallet. I mean, I guess if it's all about the money, and it's good to be the leader, but
how do you think Goblins makes money?
So you know how they control perimeter? They make like almost what, 200 billion a month in perimeter, and I don't think his alliance gets any of that shit.
I don't know if it's up to 200 billion, but I do know that they make a fair amount of money off of perimeter. I'm not sure on the exact thing. Aerith is actually might be able.
Yeah,
to
you're here. Hi, Aerith.
An insight on that.
Hello. Yeah, it's probably a little bit more than that. Actually, they raised their market taxes to 0.03. They used to be 0.01. So it's cute. Like, but I wouldn't say it's a lot of money. But I guess it's a lot of money if it's a personal person.
Right. Like, if it all goes to Goblins, I mean, that's a chunk of money. So yeah, welcome, Aerith. How's it going,
Good
man?
on him, man. Like, good for that guy.
So Aerith's here now, so we can actually go to our top story, which involves Aerith here. So we press a button. This is what I get for being sick. I'm sick. I'm gonna show shit. But I will fix it. It's all right. So hey, Aerith, how's it going?
It's going well. Sorry, I'm a little late. I lost track of time.
No, you're fine. You're fine. It's a mess today. So we'll start off with Aerith. Aerith, for those that don't remember Aerith very much, he's our CSM rep, along with the nominate from the Imperium. And so we brought him here to monologue a bit and to also talk about the CSM. And the first thing up for bat is Newman announced that he has officially won EVE and he is quitting the CS. Well, he'll be finishing the CSM, but then he's done. What do you think about that, Newman?
So, who is Newman, for people who don't know?
I don't even know who that is. Who is that?
He's a wormhole candidate. So he's part of Hard Knocks. He's the wormhole candidate, and he's a very, very good one. Yeah, he's done a lot of good for wormholers, so that is going to be a big loss for them.
Oh, HK. Yeah, that guy. Okay, now I remember. He's the member of Hard Knocks.
The Hard Knocks, like, wormhole CSM. Yeah, so he's, like, winning EVE for real, and is actually, like, giving away all of his stuff, that kind of thing. So that is a interesting note in CSM land. Okay, so I mean, one of the things that we've been seeing in terms of the economy is we had the monthly economic report came out. I think it was last week, and we didn't have an econ person on to talk about it. But you know, as usual, same shit, different month. Delve is almost now outproducing the Forge. People don't really seem to link the mining numbers around anymore because there's no new news there. But one of the questions that I have for Aerith is, are we starting to see some of the macroeconomic effects of this new moon mining system actually hitting Jita? What's going on outside of the old bubble of Delve?
Well, I mean, on a personal note, this has been the most fun I've had in EVE and for my playstyle in probably 3 or 4 years. So with this patch, with CCP changing the rarity of Moon Goo, changing how it's diversified among the different nullsec areas and even now highsec, you've got this chance to where you have speculation opportunities and manipulation opportunities and alliance income level opportunities, and they've all kind of formed this perfect storm where you're able to make trillions of ISK very quickly and across all your people in a very short amount of time. But there's this economic warfare playing out in Jita where it's just area denial and destroying markets and crushing profit margins and monopolization of reactions, and it's really fun to watch. Especially if you have like tons of stockpiles where you can kind of watch from a, I don't want to say malevolent viewpoint, but you can definitely watch from a, well, I don't really care what happens to this market because I already have what I need.
One of the questions that I have is from the perspective of like the puppy on the ground in Jita, like what are they going to see impact their day-to-day EVE playing lifestyle out of Jita from this? Is there going to be like particular ships or T2 components that are going to become prohibitively expensive? Is there going to be volatility? Like, how are people on the ground going to be affected by this?
So if you're, let's just take it from kind of the bottom up of the pyramid, and we'll get to the consumer at the end in a second. So if you take it from the average producer of T2 items, their input costs are fluctuating wildly, and if you trend it out, they've only been going up since the patch as stockpiles exhaust or manipulations occur. And then later, when all stockpiles are exhausted, manipulations occur, will be even worse. But it's a fundamentally financially healthy thing, but it's very scary, and you can lose a lot of ISK, or you can be underselling your products. So that's the producer. So T2 has gotten dramatically more expensive. It's still rippling through the market. It's only going to get worse, which means T2 demand will fall. And so there'll be some equilibrium we hit. And then you've got the guy that's making like the modules, and he's being dramatically impacted. And then you have all of the guys that are buying these ships, and all they know is, why is this ship now double the cost it may have been when they used to buy it? Or why is all these things costing so much? So that's the average guy. And then you got JFs, like jump freighters, people don't really understand, they use up a lot of goo. And so they have impacts. And so the capital requirements to get into JFing is higher. It's just, there's these ripple effects throughout the economy that you see play out at the ground level. So everyone's seeing their prices change, and everyone's getting wrecked if they're not, a large holder or someone that can understand the market.
How does this work, though? So again, the big battleship of the today is Max, and Max are about to get nerfed. How is this going to affect the JITA T2 market? A lot of people, for a long time, if they needed to buy mass stockpiles of ships, would just go to JITA, buy the market out, or buy as many as they can, import them, and then stockpile them. How is that going to affect it? Like, you're looking at this money graph, and I went through it a couple days ago. Again, it looks like JITA's starting to lose its volume, whereas Delve and parts of 0-0 are skyrocketing. How does that affect the guy that has to go to JITA to buy his stuff, like on an alliance level?
For the alliance level for now, and probably for the foreseeable future, you'll still be able to supply in JITA. Will you be incented to buy those same holes made in your own space? Absolutely. Like, smart alliances will be buying from themselves, like buying from the individual producers. But the people that don't prepare and just want to pay more, they'll still be able to run to JITA. The profit margins are still going to be great. The market needs to adjust because the profit margins are can be tanking, but that's mostly due to volatility. And once we find some level of equilibrium, once the manipulations are over, once the stockpiles are exhausted, then we'll kind of know what the true T2 price is and whether that premium on stats is worth the premium on is.
Okay. I don't know. It seems like the more you look at the thing, one of the interesting notes that someone brought up, someone made a graph about how the amount of change from January to February in the graph, and ours went up exponentially compared to everybody else. Is that strictly because we just producing more and more and more and more, or is that because we were off on January? Like, what was the cause of that one?
A little bit of both. So we did enact some policies that allowed our economy to run more efficiently. The Ochre rule is one of those policies, and then all the new refineries that got thrown down. But yes, like we had that little mini deployment that affected our stats, and so you got to see that bleed off and see a real month.
Mittens, you're being kind of weirdly quiet.
It's because I'm trying to get the chroma key fixed. So I'm like, people in chat are helping me. Like,
you're fine now. I fixed it
right.
now. Like the chroma key background's gonna be a little worse, but you won't be invisible, so you're good to go there. So
okay. Yeah, no, it's so guys, like we're having lots of amusing technical challenges today because we're back to using Skype. Bode is back because the last few meta shows we had was basically just like people would come on and talk, and it would just be like I never actually went through the extra effort of having other people's webcams on. So I had it easy when I was hosting. So
yeah, it's surprisingly a lot of work to go through. But go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, anyway, so I'm just kind of curious, like, have you seen people cry? Like, one of the things about this economic shit show is, of course, I haven't been checking the forums, which is where, like, random puppies cry about things, but I haven't seen too much in the way of screaming yet, Aerith. Like, are there people complaining about what's happening in JITA and we're just not paying attention to it? Or are people, like, just getting fucked by these prices and they don't realize that it's going on?
I think it's a little of both. More probably the latter. They haven't went up so dramatically so fast that it's kind of like boiling the crab slowly, right? It wasn't a sudden thing. It's been multiple waves of price increases. So it's not like they saw their favorite ship hull jump 100 million in a day. So there's that, and then there's I think a lot of at the line level pubby, the end of JITA, like smorgasbord of like shitlers, right? They don't know what the price should be. They just kind of pay whatever the flavor of the month is and just get screwed and don't even know.
Yeah, that's something I tend to notice is that if somebody doesn't care how much money they're spending, do they even notice that they're spending 20, 30, 40% more? Or do they even care? Like, is that the point where it doesn't even matter anymore?
But there's also the point that people just don't know any better. They see a price in Jita and there's a lot of sellers and they think, okay, that's a fair price. And they're not wrong. It's a fair price for probably what the inputs are at that moment. They just don't realize the inputs have went up.
Yeah, one of the things that Corns is pointing out here in chat is there's also the fact that changes in Moon Goo supply take a very long time to ripple up into the finished products. And you know, this is also like really arcane stuff, right? Like if you're playing Eve because you're a space warrior and you want to shoot lasers at bad guys, going into the discussion of the supply chain and why your zealot costs 3 times as much as it used to might be boring you to tears. But the question that comes from this is, have we actually fully seen the impact of the Moon Goo changes? 'Cause, I mean, these went in many months ago, and there are still stockpiles of R64 goo flying around from years ago. Are we done with these changes, or are we still sort of like at the very early part of the curve?
I would say we're in the middle. We're nowhere near done. It takes a couple weeks on average for each tier of reactions to kind of ripple through the market. That was sort of the old wisdom, and that's still mostly holding true. 2 weeks for the intermediate and another 2 weeks for the complex. But I am personally single-handedly supplying all the Pharaoh Gel and Jita, and I have been for just forever. Like the other stocks that come out are insignificant. Most of the Alliance, like Imperium or TNT or whoever, are supplying nanos, right? And now I'm going to be doing Fermi. So I'm going to be doing 2 full markets by myself. The other people are doing another full market by themselves, and these are the largest ones of goo. So there's a substantial amount of Moon Goo pull, if you will, that is not actually full demand right now. And that is going to continue probably for at least 6 more months before I can exhaust my stuff.
Okay, so a question from Cocat here in chat, which is, in the they've added HiSec, and of course HiSec always had moon mining, it just wasn't all that much, but are the addition of HiSec and wormhole moon mining going to be impacting the value of the Moon Goo at all, or is it an insignificant increase in terms of supply? Is that just because people aren't doing it, or because the amounts of the goo that's in HiSec and wormholes is just so small compared to null?
It's basically, so HiSec, they only get the R4s, which we want to be done by people with more time than ISK, because it will drive up the prices. So you want the rarity to be at the top of the pyramid, not the bottom. And what happened was we didn't have enough production of R4s, so it was flipping. So it was actually depressing the prices of like R64s and 16s. So you want it the other way around. So that's more balanced. Plus,
that's
it's
interesting.
But then you had like the wormholes, where if you do the numbers, like the total amount of goo coming out of them on an individual system is not much at all.
Yeah,
that makes sense. I mean, people don't really go to wormholes to mine. I mean, they might do some gas production for drugs and T3 shit, but no, sorry, gas doesn't.
Well, it's even worse than that. Like they could do every moon, and the output of all their moons isn't going to matter. Is
it just because there's not that many moons in wormhole space?
Yeah, basically. Yeah,
I see. And inherently, it would be kind of hard to organize mass scale production, because it's inherently like you're in one hole, right? You can't just be like, we're gonna go mine through an entire region and be able to use gates and bridges and stuff to move effectively from one moon to another. Which, that's a segue into another question, which is, this is, I don't know what the answer to this is, but sort of speculation for people who aren't aware. Like the Imperium embarked upon its first locust fleet last Sunday, so between the last meta show and now, and we sent out 160 Rorquals or more. It was something absolutely ridiculous.
210 were spotted on one moon.
210? Jesus,
yeah, that's what
I only saw it right at the start. That's fantastic. So Locust Fleet is basically sending the Imperium out into Aquarius, where we had a bunch of frax fire, and were able to exploit the entire Moon Goo production of that region in just a few hours. And we're looking to do that some more. So the question I have for Aerith is this going to alter the balance of Goo exploitation? What do you see as the future for the Locust Fleet concept?
Well, I think Locust Fleet has probably become somewhat the meta, maybe not with Rorquals, but it is more practical to do max frags. Like we showed early on, you do max frags, you time them together, you burn it down. And I think a lot of people really haven't caught on to that yet. It probably will help with total supply, but I don't think it's going to matter a whole heck of a lot for the foreseeable future, because we don't really know what the full demand is right now. We still don't. We haven't balanced T2 to where demand has dropped off to offset the supply disruptions, right? So, and we still have stockpiles. So there's still variables that we need to burn off before we're really going to be able to see how that takes shape. But it's pretty clear that it's probably a lot higher prices on some of the stuff today. But a lot of things have already corrected. Like Hafnium's already at 25K, which is just insane when you think about it.
I got a question related to that, which is Zedekiah was wondering, are we approaching the point where alchemy starts becoming profitable?
Oh yeah, like alchemy's been profitable for quite some time, depending on the alchemy. The problem with the alchemy kind of production line is it's very low density per slot, and usually the overall profit per month is very low. But it is positive on several things like Disporite and things like that. The R64 alchemy, and it probably will continue to be for quite some time.
Gotcha. As Corn says, it is a good margin, but shit ISK per hour. That's interesting. Do you have a guess as to what the overall increase in price for T2 ships as a whole is going to be once this entire thing shakes out, from before the moon mining changes went in to once the market stabilizes?
Probably double. Probably maybe a little more. It depends on the ship and what kind of goo it had. Like thulium goo, base things are much cheaper right now. But it looks like it's more you want to factor in on like what the R64s and 16s cost. And we are not at full pull again. So like I keep manipulating like the R64s and 16s, and it's trivial to do. So I know that there's a lot of lack of supply right now. At least making it to Jita. There's definitely a lot of supply in stockpile still.
Gotcha.
Interesting.
Okay.
So
I mean,
sorry.
You go, but
no, you're fine. Go ahead.
No, I got nothing.
Oh, I was just going to ask. I heard a rumor this week, back to CSM talk for a quick minute, that CCP has announced the patch is coming March 20th. The monitor is still in the game. That's going to happen. I don't even want to get into why that's bad for the game, but whatever. The monitor is still in the game. I don't like the ship. It's pretty broken. But going into the CSM, I heard there's something coming in the coming months that all of the player base is going to hate. And the CSM is pretty unanimous on the hate. I've asked a few CSM about this. Can you comment on this at all, or is it still under NDA?
It's still under NDA, but what I will say is I think if you poll the CSM again, our opinion has now changed.
Ooh, that's good.
All right, I'm confused. So, I mean, if there's something that everybody is going to hate, but are you talking about the monitor?
No. Just
No.
There was a rumor, and no one would say what it was coming. They said that the CSM was approached, and unanimously the CSM was like, "Yeah, this is bad for the game. This is horrible," but they wouldn't say what that was. So it was like rumor mill to the 100th degree. But then, so apparently that's changed. That's good. I don't know what it is. I'm trying to.
All I'll say is our concerns were addressed.
Oh, good. Okay, cool. I don't know what it is. I just heard. I was hoping maybe Aerith would leak something, but yeah, I know. Should know better,
Bleezy says that CSM members had hinted at this kind of thing in past shows.
Yeah.
And somebody is saying hopefully that the CSM has browbeaten them to death, it sounds like.
Yeah, it sounds like that's a good thing. Okay, good. I didn't want something to come out that's really fucking busted, so that's good news. And then also, is Sword Dragon still a CSM member, correct? Like, that hasn't changed? So, we'll go to this topic. Sword Dragon recently tweeted that being an alliance leader is a thankless job, forgetting the fact that he has crowdsourced not just once or twice, 3 times for free things. This doesn't include a free trip to Vegas that one of his members paid for. But my question is how is a guy like Sword Dragon still on the CSM with this much shit flowing out of his mouth?
Well, I mean,
are you asking Earth?
I'm asking either one of you. I mean, what the fuck? Is this guy lost it like off his rocker or something here? I mean, come on. Either one of you can comment.
I don't disparage my fellow CSM members.
Oh, you're horrible, Aerith. All right, fine. Fine. Well, fuck the CSM comment. What do you think of this fucking comment? That it's a thankless job and that you get no reward whatsoever?
Well, I mean, I think, obviously it's hypocritical, right? But that's, it's far be it from me to really hurf a lot of dwarfs about, Reddit mobs. One of the things with this is, we talked about this on the Fireside Chat today, is I've been, I think, incredibly lucky. Like, I think that being an alliance leader is one of the coolest things I've ever done in my life. And in theory that sounds kind of lame, and if it is, whatever, I don't care. Like, I get to fly all around the world, I get to see friends that I've made over the internet, and I get to meet them in the real world. There is a very supportive, somewhat psychopathic community in Goonswarm and the Imperium. I've made a lot of friends. I've seen the world. Like, there's something fantastic about being able to go any place in the world, essentially, touch down and have friends there who you fought with and had real sort of stressful bonding experiences with in the trenches of EU Online. And then being able to be like, speaking as an American, going to Paris and have French goons, actual Parisians, who I know from EVE Online, be like, yo, like, you've come to our city before as a fucking tourist, and let's show you the real world. And so, being an alliance leader is awesome. It's a tremendous privilege. I can understand maybe the reason why Sword Dragon thinks that it's thankless to be an alliance leader is because he's leading Darkness.
Yeah,
just gonna throw that out there.
Like, even reading Darkness, I don't even know about that, because if he doesn't backstab and swallow some giant amounts of cock, he wouldn't be in this situation where Darkness is viewed as shit, right? Like, he's got a good portion of Eve. People will work with his alliance, not necessarily with him. Like NC and PL will come defend him when he calls for them. So, I mean, it's not like he's in the worst of places, but it's just like, I just don't understand. Like, that'd be like if, to put it nicely, you went out there and were like, yeah, I do alliance leadership for free and I get nothing out of it. Like, what?
Yeah, I mean, there's a tremendous benefits just in terms of like social capital and seeing the world and having lots of friends that come from being an alliance leader. As Corns points out, though, in chat, one of the things that he's doing is he's just reacting to negative feedback. Like, one of the things that's weird about Sword is that he has such a thin fucking skin.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be brutal on him because he was shitty to our people. He has his own like little FC Discord that he set up, and he kicked out Asher, and he was just a complete jerk about it a couple weeks ago. So we yanked everybody from Goonswarm out of that Discord because Sort wanted to herf all of his blurfs. If he wants to talk about Alliance being an Alliance leader being a thankless job, then I don't know why he's trying to set himself up as king shit of Poop Mountain with his little FC Discord and try to lord it over people. So, it's just one of those things where people come after me all the time. I have received more death threats than I can count because I stopped counting a while ago. Not so much anymore. I think that the internet has kind of cleaned up a bit but in 5 or 6 years ago, it was much more Wild West. You got to have a thick skin as an alliance leader, because when your alliance goes to war, it always becomes about the personalities. When Test and Goonswarm have a fight, if Pro God Legend is leading Test on that day, everybody throws shit at Pro God Legend. Things happening with Goonswarm, people throw shit my way. Things happening with Darkness, people throw shit Sword Dragon's ways. You see alliance leaders, one of the reasons why Pro God Legend sticks around is, one, he doesn't actually have to be the alliance leader on most days. He just takes over his alliance and then blames other people and vanishes when the going gets tough. But say what you will about Pro God Legend, the guy has a much thicker skin than Sword Dragon. People can talk shit about Pro God Legend and he will just brush it off because he doesn't give a fuck. I don't give a fuck. I get mad sometimes, but like,
here's the thing that gets me, and it really kind of upsets me, is he wouldn't be on the CSM if he wasn't leading darkness. Like, he doesn't have the personality to be there, and if he didn't have the ability to take all of GOTG and say, look, vote for me, he wouldn't be on the CSM. Like, that alone, forgetting all the other GoFundMes and stuff that he's done over his time, I don't see how that's thankless to be able to influence CCP in that way. I don't know, maybe that's just me.
Well, being on the CSM can be a fucking thankless job. Like, that's one of the things that, like, people don't realize about it. Like, they think it's a free trip to Iceland, as if going to Iceland is, like, happy, happy fun times. One of the other things about, like, you know, I was on the CSM, and they usually try to send you to Iceland when it's cheap. So if you've been to Iceland in November or December, I forget, it was like November or December, we had a summit there, maybe late October. I'd have to go dig up the dates. This is back on CSM 6. It was kind of funny because Death and me and Tirax Thork went to the Blue Lagoon one night in the middle of a blizzard, so like snow is hitting us sideways. Of course, I'm telling a cool story about it, so it makes it sound like it's all fun and games, but in practice, you know, the CSM is just a shitload of work. People who have you know, real jobs have to give up their vacation time to basically go to Iceland, which takes like a week to get there and get back if you live in the United States, and do work. And you're sitting in a room full of sweaty nerds talking about EVE for 8 or 9 hours a day. And the old school party culture, from what I've heard, isn't really the way it was back when you know, people in my cohort were tearing the town up. So it sounds, frankly, it sounds nightmarish these days. Yeah. So, I mean, it's true that Sword Dragon does have people vote for him. And, you know, look, the guy's got an alliance. If he can convince people to vote for him, if he can convince people to do GoFundMes, like, you know, that's awesome. I mean, I'm always trying to do business-related things. Like, you know, fair's fair. Like, we tried to put together a cool product. We did a fucking Fountain War Kickstarter book, and it failed. Right? So, you know, of course, we didn't get any money from that because it's a Kickstarter, so if it fails, you don't get anything.
Well, we wouldn't have got money from it anyways, right? Because it would all went to the writer, and he would have got his.
Well, we attempted to develop a product that we attempted to develop a product and sell it to the EVE community, and we made classic business mistakes there of developing a product that people weren't interested in. Like, here's a, you know, it's a very classic startup problem. Hey, here's a really cool product that we're going to make, and it's the best widget that nobody wants. And some people did want it; they were interested in it, but not enough. So, you know, I can't throw stones about, like, trying things. I'm interested in business. I'm trying stuff like that. But I've never held out my hand for charity and said, please fund me because I'm broke and I'm turning to my alliance to fund it.
Right.
People in darkness seem to be cool with that. I mean, you know, different stories for different folks.
Yeah. All right,
and
so
possible hiring first possible base. Yes, that is also true. There were a lot of disasters with the Fountain War Kickstarter thing. You know, I learned a lot, which is the fascinating story of startups. I don't want to talk too much shit about Sword Dragon without addressing the fact that, you know, we have done business things and they haven't always worked out.
I could talk shit about Sword Dragon though. I got this.
Yeah, you can handle it.
He kicked me from that channel when I tried to share it with our lovely streamers. I was trying really importantly to share.
That's right, last week.
Yeah, I was trying to bring light to a channel that needs light, and he banned me from it. It was so rude.
I forgot about this, and I wanna talk about Kickstarter, which was my own fault because it's just something that was funny. So we learned a lot of lessons from that in terms of like what not to do, and like basic market research, which we totally didn't do. It turns out, and this is, you know, a couple years ago this was really fucking embarrassing, but now I think it's just kind of funny because it's been like 3 years, is the Fountain War Kickstarter was literally priced as the most expensive work of fiction ever pitched on the Kickstarter platform. Ever.
Really?
That was the single highest priced Kickstarter for the fiction section of Kickstarter at that time. And we didn't know because we didn't do the market. We were just like, okay, Jeff Edwards needs this much money to live and produce this, and, you know, this is going to be this and whatever. And so if we had actually done our homework properly and looked into market research and find out what the price point of fiction works would have been, we would have realized that we had, you know, pitched the single most expensive work of fiction in the history of Kickstarter. which is just an amazing sort of a Razzie style prize, I think. But yeah, it's good shit. So do your market research, guys. Product development is important. Don't just try to make a good widget that nobody wants. So yeah.
Yeah, so
good stuff.
Real quick, it is St. Patrick's Day today. For all of you, please, if you're going to go out, do not drive. This is a boat warning. Drinking and driving is really bad. But we do have a wonderful link here from St. Patrick's Day sale. CCP currently has a sale where you can activate all training slots on your account for only €15.99. Don't know what that is into other monies. I think that's like 17 US. So if you wish to activate 3 different accounts all at once with the multiple character training, there is a sale going on. So that's our Eve plug. But here's the question. So Eve is going into spring and then pretty soon summer. Summer tends to be a lot of Europeans tend to go on vacation, so they don't play Eve that much, and it kind of slows down a bit. But it feels like summer is a time when big shit comes out from CCP and Eve, because you have Fanfest coming up shortly. Is there anything we can expect big news-wise from Fanfest? Or is should we watch it very closely without breaking NDA? Is there anything big going to happen there? Or is it going to be like most Fanfests, just kind of oh, we already know about that?
That's fair, Earth.
I think he vanished on us.
Well, while we wait for him to get back, that is a very good question, but I'm going to go ahead and say it is 45 after the hour, so we are going to go into subscribers only. This is something that we have been doing for the last month or so now. At the 45-minute mark, we start taking Q&As and also just shut it off such that only subscribers and cool kids can talk to each other. Yeah, so we also now have a bigger goon bee in our emotes, which I'm happy about, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, so we do have a bunch of subscribers. 24 months, Ogami Ito, thank you very much. 2 years. That's really awesome. Thank you, sir. We also have... where'd it go? Tiberake with a tier 1 sub. What is tier 1? Is that the one where it's like 3 months worth of subscribing? I don't remember how that works.
I have no idea. It's the first time I've actually seen it.
And then some guy named DBRB subscribed for the first month. High five you. I activated Twitch Prime yesterday for something, or last week. I got a new green screen. It's pretty cool. It's a 10-foot by a 12-foot sheet that's designed specifically for green screening. And then I got these really awesome clamps and ways to put it up.
Oh wow! Check this out. So Volkan's posted a GIF that he made. That is really badass. This first time I've seen this. I think he linked it to me on Jabber earlier today, but I hadn't seen it.
Did you actually go golfing?
Yeah, we went to. So this is the thing we did, the Tampa Goon Meet, and that was during. We went to Top Golf, which was fantastic. I have never golfed before, so my swing fucking sucks. But Top Golf was like, okay, we're gonna go to a driving range. All right, sure, whatever. Okay, I've never golfed before, but why not? We'll give it a whirl. My buddies seem to be into it. We go there in Top Golf, and there's a few of them in major. I think there's 40 plus Top Golfs around the United States now. Yeah, they're like fucking nightclubs combined with a bowling alley, combined with a restaurant, combined with a bar, combined with golf. It's like clubbing golf, basically.
All right, so that to segue here real quick. Have you ever seen? There's a guy named 2 Chainz. Have you ever heard of him? The rapper.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, so he does a show for. I forget what it is, but it's called The World's Most Expensive Shit. And he goes to Top Golf and does their platinum special area with him and a buddy. It's $10,000 for a session. And they have specific waiters and waitresses, any drinks, any food you want, anything you want, they handle it. They also give you your own pro golfer to teach you how to golf for the time that you're there. And it's $10,000 a session or $10,000 an hour, one of the two. But it's just unreal how well it's done at Top Golf.
That's fantastic. But yeah, the Top Golf thing was a lot of fun. So that's a pretty cool GIF. Thank you, Volcans. So yeah, I don't know if Aerith is going to tune in or not, but normally we see a big drum beat leading up to FanFest. They've had to. I think that my guess is that they've had to sort of reshuffle things. Usually by this time each year, CCB has put out a lot of major, hey guys, this is what's going to happen at FanFest stuff by now.
Right.
And with the March patch happening in just a couple of days, unless they've been holding a bunch of stuff in reserve, We don't really know. One of the other things is that, of course, they've had to put off the CSM elections until I believe after FanFest is the plan, and that's never happened before. Like usually, CSM elections happen before
because they announced it at FanFest. Yeah,
the winners are announced at FanFest. But I think that I'm in this really weird place where I've actually been fairly sympathetic towards CCP. Like maybe it's a battered wife thing where like these changes that are coming into FuzzySoft, like the remote rep change, something we've asked about on the Meta Show for many months. Maybe it's like battered wife stuff to be all like, oh, they finally gave us what we wanted, all is forgiven. But anyway, so I'm in kind of a forgiving place towards CCP recently, and we do have to understand the fact that they basically had massive layoffs. They had to cut entire studios and sell them off, and I think that we're going to see a FanFest where they're going to have to put some things off, and we might just have to be a little bit more gentle with them for this FanFest.
It's going to be very interesting because, again, like you said, they usually showcase, okay, this is what we're going to show you bits and pieces, usually the technical stuff, so people have time to prepare. Usually the roundtables are kind of laid out a bit. But the big one is the CSM because, again, when you cut off your entire community manager team, like everybody gets gutted, it kind of makes it difficult to do a CSM election when you have a big FanFest coming up. Used to be you had an entire team dedicated to it. I think that makes a big deal. But it'll be really interesting to see how FanFest goes. Because, again, FanFest is usually lots of glitz and glamour, especially with the big keynotes. And I'm interested to see because you don't really have a timeline of keynotes right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're going to have something really, really good. They're going to have something really, really good for the keynote. I will say that. But the CSM election shift was requested by the CSM. It wasn't something CCP initiated. It's really crappy when you get elected at FanFest and then everyone goes away on CCP for like the whole summer. It just feels really disjointed. You don't actually start your term for real purposes, it seems like, until the first summit. So this just makes it to where the summits are actually useful and they're not 2 summits in 4 months,
Okay. That's a good point then. Okay. Huh.
So one of the things, we actually haven't had a chance to really take many questions. I don't know if we were telling stories about Topgolf, but if folks actually have questions for us or for we would love to hear it, and we can throw that out there. But yeah, so Aerith, what do you said that the CSM had actually requested that things?
Yeah, we felt like it worked better. After you go through the CSM a couple years, you realize like, oh, half the CSM term feels like there's nothing going on because of the way the timing works for the CCP vacations and your onboarding and things. So we were noticing that like the new CSM people would come on and they didn't even feel like they were part of the CSM until the first summit. So it's just to make it easier to where if they're going to be out anyway, it's not a big deal to make a few accounts for people during the summer. And then when CCP comes back, the new CSMs are somewhat up to speed and on comms, right? Because it takes the new CSM like a month to sort out their comms and that kind of thing.
Oh. Got a question here from Stevie K. How many moons do goons have refineries on?
1,300 or so, something like that.
1,300. That'll do. What's the most fucked up thing that Boat and Middens have ever heard or experienced with Sort? Boat, what?
When I was in Paris, when I first met Sort, you remember this?
I was there. Yeah.
When he informed me that that his high school best friend was indeed his long-term girlfriend. That was the awakening after being drunk for like 12 hours. That was the most fucked up thing I ever heard from Sort. Or maybe
that is
either that or the fact that he was making $12,000 a month doing his own personal business that we found out like 3 or 4 years later was his weed growing business. What? Either one of those. I mean, both those are up there. Okay.
Yeah, I think that'll. I think that you guys are slacking with only 1,300 moons. Yeah, I don't know if anybody else in the game has anything close to that level of moon density.
Close, and that's not structures. That's just the moons.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I actually don't think that we should say how many structures, or well, I mean, is it a deterrent at this point to say how many structures?
God, yes, it's thousands now. I mean, come on, who's going to attack that?
It's not
people
even that.
Know we have 18 keep stars now. I
19.
Think, we talked about it on the far side.
19, I believe, but 19 keep stars. All right, so time for me to rant a little bit here. I also love how you dodged that question. It was well done. But for the keep star thing, just imagine how many Fortizars we have. It's not even keep stars. I mean, all it's going to take, and I mean, CCP's got to work here because this is frustrating. Keep stars are shit. Outside of their Doomsday, as I saw yesterday with Whelp Squad, they were on grid shooting that fucking keep star for 2 hours, and a keep star could not force them off grid. They were there with a Ferox fleet. A motherfucking Ferox fleet. It's so shit. Like, how the fuck is a keep star not good enough? Something that costs, what, 500 billion if it's fit up right? Could not even drive off a fucking battlecruiser fleet of 100? 200? Like, come on now. Like, while keep stars look impenetrable, they really aren't. Like, people have that 1 or 2 and think that they're safe. You gotta have like 50, 60 of those things before you really start to feel comfortable, I think.
Yeah, it's so it turns out it is 18.
Yeah,
it's not
18,
19, not yet.
Sorry.
But yeah, we've lost count of how many I actually don't know. I know that we've got. I'm pretty sure a long time ago we finished putting at least one in every single system in Delve.
I'm sorry. I will say this though, with the number of Fortizars, you can't use caps. Like, here's the thing, with the old soft system, where you could just use supers and run around and kill all the iHubs, you can't do that with Fortizars. Like, Fortizars will fuck up cap ships. You can't just spam caps everywhere to kill Fortizars, which is a big deal. Who's going to kill a Fortizar? I don't know. Or a Keepstar. That's a good question. So LuminaFlux says, who's going to kill a Keepstar? I mean, what do you think, Mittens? Do you think anyone could kill a Keepstar in Delve, let alone 18?
I think that Keepstars can die currently. It's just that they have to die quietly. Like, I think that you'll see Keepstars get killed when it's a smaller or medium-sized entity that isn't hooked up with one of the either the Imperium or the Great Blue Troll, not a Blue Donut group. So Keepstars are proliferating enough that you'll find, medium-sized alliances, smaller alliances have them. And those can die, not because of the military forces, though that helps, but because right now, if the major power blocks all show up on the grid for a Keepstar, they can't die. Now, you did see a recent example, of course, is Triumvirate lost to Keepstar, not just 2 months ago, and that was sort of the end of the Triumvirate versus DRF conflict. But in that case, you saw, again, that's an example of like one side had maybe 500 people, the other side brought like 3,000 people, and that's within the limits that the server can handle. When we tried to do NITAC 4, you ended up with 7,000 people. You have 2 major power blocks showing up, and then the servers just shot itself, and nothing could be done. The Great Blue Troll co-neutrality sphere. I like that.
Well, I think that's the thing that makes Keepstars unkillable at the moment, but eventually will make them killable. I think it's going to take a mechanism change, right? Because right now, like you said, a quiet alliance, that quiet alliance might not be part of a block. If you're not part of the North or the South, or even like in Test's case, if people really wanted to, like, Test would lose its Keepstars. Like, Test couldn't defend itself against one big block unless the other block helps, right? Test is in that little hole in the wall spot that I don't think Test alone could defend it, and Test doesn't. Really have a coalition.
Test puts out a lot of fucking bodies. Like, if anybody attacked Test, like, on their day-to-day fleet strength, like entities like the Imperium and Test both have kind of a thing where, like, occasionally they'll put out crappy fleets, but like if you actually attacked a Test Keepstar, they would flip the fuck out, and by the time it got to the final timer, you'd see like 1,000 dudes from Test.
I meant like look at 9-4. If one of those two sides was to go against a Test Keepstar without interference of the other side, that's where it could get messy. Not to say Tests can't handle their own. I'm just saying, like, just the sheer numbers make it very hard for a small group. And Test isn't a small group, mind you. Now imagine a group smaller than Test that puts up a Keepstar thinking they could just have one. Like what happened
like Triumvirate.
Or like what happened with that Stain one, where Test killed it. I mean, it took them a little longer than they were supposed to, but...
Did Test kill one in Stain? I missed this.
Yeah, eventually it died. I think it was the one that eventually died. They lost the first timer because PL did a Dread Bomb, right? And it got reset.
Oh, yeah.
And then they eventually killed it.
Yeah,
okay, yeah, that one. So, like, a small group like that, you can't own a Keepstar. Like, you'll see what happened in Wormhole Space, where that small group had their own Keepstar, and it was really expensive. It's like a trillion ISK because of the rigs it had. And then it got dogpiled and it died because they were able to...
I think the max price of a T2 rigged Keepstar is like... Well, of course, this is when it like had first come out. But what is it these days, Aerith?
Yeah, Aerith, what's that?
What was the question?
Keepstar.
What's the max price on a T2 rigged Keepstar these days?
About 550.
About 550. Okay.
Now. It's went up a little. Like there's some salvage that had went up dramatically after the patch that is still going. Like Contaminated Lorenz, like even though that's the T1 one, has been going up like to where it's almost T2 price now. It's hilarious.
Why is salvage getting impacted by price changes? Is somebody
There's been a
that?
lot of new demand. You got the high sec had refineries come in. We deployed a ton of them, and then you had a lot of spam.
Gotcha. Got a question here from Gibberish. Is Iceform going to come down to Chicago soon? So Iceform, we're going to probably continue in a hotter climates just for maximum irony. The discussion for next Iceform, which will be in sometime in the winter of next year, is for Austin, Texas, because we all know Xavier Gallifant, however the fuck you say his last name. His last space name, and I think a party in Austin would just be fantastic. But Summer Swarm is typically in the Madison or Chicago area. So Summer Swarm this year is going to be back in Madison. We haven't had a Swarm event in Madison in a year plus, so it'll be good. People are sort of looking to have a chance to go rage here. So yeah, we'll do summer this year.
I really like the idea of it moving around, bouncing around. Like a Summer Swarm in Miami would be pretty cool. I mean, just
we had a shitload of fun in Tampa. So that's basically what we're looking to. We want to strike a balance between moving around and exploring, because again, that's one of the reasons why, like we're talking about earlier on the show, one of the reasons why being an alliance leader is fulfilling and awesome is that you get to have you and 33,000 of your closest friends all around the world, and so you get to travel around and meet new people, and you just see the world in a different place when you have tribe there. When you, even if you've never really met before except on the internet, like when you go to a city and it's like somebody who's lived there and knows all the cool places, it's a completely different kind of experience than, oh, hey, yeah, like I looked at TripAdvisor and this seemed like these were the places to go, the sort of tourist experience. So we want to strike a balance between staying true to the traditions of Madison and Chicago area for some of our Swarm events, while balancing the travel schedule and getting to see the world.
I could see a really awesome event happening at like a ski resort or something, they have an Eve one that happens in January where they go to, I forget what the ski resort's called, but they go there and they do a Summer Swarm, or like a meetup for all the Eve people, and a couple of devs go to it each year, and they go snowboarding and skiing, and it's pretty cool. I don't know, just moving around would be fun, but we are out of time.
Why, yes we are. Well, thank everybody for coming again this week. I'm apologizing about the technical difficulties we had. This fault. Actually wasn't really our fault. It turns out it was all Discord stuff. Thankfully, we have a what's
cool about it is someone mentioned right at the beginning of the show. It's at Breckenridge. Yeah, Noisy Gamer points out Breckenridge. That's pretty cool. Is that it isn't a true meta show unless we have a technical difficulty, so we definitely know it's back.
we're getting back on track. One last question here, Bleezy. Yep. The meets are for the entirety of the. We don't keep track of who's in Goonswarm and who's in an out entity.
And a lot
of just all us boys.
And a lot of people that show up to a lot of these meets don't even play EVE anymore. They just were in Goons at some point, but they made real life friends, so they just show up and they live nearby or something. So All right.
Yes.
We're out of time.
Thankfully, we do have a partner Discord, Stevie99K. That is
yeah, we do.
CVK99.
That's what
That's what we're on right now. Just the little baby meta show Discord that we use, which only has a handful of people on it. Is not. So we're on the main Imperium Discord, which, if you're curious about what the Discord is, I think the bot here.
Watch this.
I actually spit that out. Yeah. So that is.
Yep. Yep. Oh, you
Discord.
did it. Okay. All right. Well,
sweet.
See y'all next week. Yeah.
All right. I will turn
Later,
things
guys.
back to subscribers off, so the proletariat can chat.
Yeah. Up
and,
next, I forget who's up next, but we have a streamer up next, and there's a big wormhole thing eviction going down. It got delayed another week because a couple of the Fortizars survived. So,
right.
Bye, guys.
Thanks a lot, guys, and thank you, Earth, for turning up.
You are about to receive messages that may be harmful to your mental state. Your sense of reality will be questioned. Your view on things will be altered. You are now part of the meta. The meta controls everything. The meta determines what will and will not happen. You are watching The Meta Show.